Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and I am so excited to be celebrating 10 years of meaningful conversations with you. As we step into our new primetime hour, it's such an honor to share this exciting new chapter with you. For over a decade, Moments with Marianne radio show has featured dynamic conversations with both indie and New York Times bestselling authors, business leaders, celebrities, mind, body, spirit experts, visionaries, lifestyle experts, and brands you need to know about. So whether you're starting your day out, headed to work, or listening from wherever you are, this hour is designed to bring you thoughtful dialogue, fresh insight, and inspiring stories so you can make every moment count. So we're here today with special guest, New York Times bestselling author Brad Meltzer, who's here to share with us his hot new thriller, The Viper, and his children's book, I Am Princess Diana. Brad Meltzer is the Emmy-nominated #1 New York Times bestselling author of The Lightning Rod and 12 other bestselling thrillers. He also writes nonfiction books like The JFK Conspiracy and his children's book series, Ordinary People Change the World. Brad is also the host of Brad Meltzer's Decoded on the History Channel, and he's responsible for finding the missing 9/11 flag with his show, Brad Meltzer's Lost History. So welcome to the show, Brad Meltzer.
So good to be back.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here. And I've got to tell you, once I picked up this book, and I know I've said this about every book you write, but this one tops the charts. I could not put this book down. I mean, it's such a great read.
I appreciate it. And let's jump right into it. It starts, a man walks into a funeral home and he's carrying his favorite blue suit because he's got a terminal disease and this is the suit he wants to be buried in. Now, if you go to a bank and you open up a safety deposit box, paperwork gets filed, which means the government can eventually track it. Same thing with you go to the UPS store and you open up a PO box. But if you secretly sew something into the lining of your favorite suit and you hand that suit over to your local mortician, you have the ultimate hiding spot. Man goes back to his hotel room. There's a guy with a gun waiting who says, "Where is it?" Man says, "I don't know what you're talking about." And the guy shoots the man dead. That suit is still in the funeral home. And you won't believe what's hidden inside it or who's about to find it. And that is chapter 1 of The Viper.
Oh my gosh, such a great read. Well, and so for readers that are new to this saga, is this a book that they can dive into without having to read the previous books?
Of course, in fact, Alex Michaelides on the cover, his blurb says, "The perfect book to meet Ziganola." You don't have to read anything else. You can just jump in. If you like that setup, come join the party. And I always write The Viper, or any of my books, so that you can jump right in as a standalone.
Well, I know you're widely known for investing so much time in the research you do for each of your books. What did you uncover that made it into The Viper that you can share without doing any spoilers?
You know, what I love about these books is, of course, the research. So in this book, we did witness protection. And when we think of witness protection, you think of mobsters and Tony Soprano and the end of Goodfellas. But what I found fascinating is that is why witness protection was started, was to take down the mob. And it worked. It actually worked. Mobsters testified against mobsters, and that was the big group there. But then guess what happened is crime didn't go away. Gangs started thriving. So gang members became the biggest part of witness protection. And then when 9/11 happened, we started chasing terrorists. So terrorists became the biggest part. You want to know one of the biggest groups in witness protection right now? It's accountants, because right now data is the king. And you'll see, it's fascinating when you leave witness protection and you go into it, you have to leave your life behind, which means sometimes you have to leave your sister. Sometimes you have to leave your dog. And there's a real pull like that. People can do that for a couple months, but there's a pull of your past and a pull of your loves. And, I know what I would do with my dog. I know what I do with my sister. 6 months later, I'd be like, I just want to make sure they're okay. And I promise you, when you read the Viper, you will never look at witness protection the same way again.
Mm-mm-mm. Well, and I know one other caveat that you're really good about is interweaving these real life experiences and situations into your storytelling. So, what brought the veteran mental health aspect as one of the points of focus in your book?
When I started researching veteran health, people used to die in wartime in Iraq and Afghanistan, of course, by being shot, by being killed, by stepping on a mine, but not today. You know what's killing our soldiers right now in the military? Our men and women who sign up for the country is suicide. Do you know that you are, since 9/11, 4 times more likely to die from suicide than you are from combat? That means for over 30,000 soldiers, that's the end of the run. And that number just devastated me when I heard it. And, as someone who mental health has been a big issue for, I put it in my books. I want people to know and read that. The only way we get past it is if we talk about it. And I hope that people who are reading this book are realize that they're not alone. And I think for me, it also came from my own family. There's the last thing that I put in the book was the opening quote. And it's a quote that says, "I don't believe in closure. I'm not sure we ever get over anything." And Marianne, I'm like, why does that quote affect me so much? And I realized it goes back to my dad. I had a very complicated relationship with him. And as I was writing the end of the book, I found this word called pentimento. I didn't really know what it meant, never heard of it before. And it's a painting term for when paint becomes so old and dry that it starts becoming translucent. So on an old painting, you can actually see through the paint and see the pencil lines on the canvas, the original pencil lines the artist made there, like their rough draft. A woman's skirt that goes to the left is now sways a little bit to the right because they changed their mind. It's like any rough draft filled with regrets, filled with mistakes and things they wish it could take back. And then it dawned on me that all of us are rough drafts. All of us have past versions of ourselves and filled with regrets, filled with mistakes. But you can't make a masterpiece without them. And I realized then that closure is overrated. What you have to do is love yourself for who you are. My mom passed, and I wrote a book about someone burying their mom. My dad passed, and I wrote a book about someone who lost their dad. But when I was working on The Viper, I realized that I just hadn't forgiven my father. And that forgiveness wasn't for him, it was for me. And I think when I wrote The Viper, the one thing that came through to me is I won't call it closure because, again, closure is overrated, but I think it's just to find a little bit of forgiveness with my dad.
It sounds like it was a healing process for you, even though the book is it's in many ways it's a really big thriller.
It was, and I didn't know that when I was writing it. It wasn't until I was done, and when I found that quote about closure, I was like, why is this striking me like a trident in my chest? But that's the beauty of a novel. Right, I can keep giving you like great research that I've done, and these stories, and that's fine. But to me, the best part of a novel is what's underneath it. Where does it come from? What the artist put of themselves in there, and I didn't even know I was doing it, but it was clearly what I was struggling with. Every character in the book is kind of looking into their past, and we all know if you look in your past, all you see are regrets. And if you look into your future and care about all, what's coming, all you're worried about, it's just anxious. Is it going to happen? Am I going to get what I want? And the only way to calm yourself down sometimes is just to be right here in the present. And I think that's what novel writing is for me. It's the one place where the whole world fades away and I don't get caught up in the past and I don't get caught up in the future, that I just get to be right here and right now and everything else disappears. And I owe The Viper a great deal for that.
Well, Brad, I mean, you're someone I greatly admire both for your writing skills and the way you show up in the world. And I don't want to talk too much more about the Viper because I think we'll get into some areas that we don't want to get into with spoilers. Let's pivot over to your children's books. You're doing some amazing children's book. What is the latest one you'd like to share with us?
When I came on this show when we started our children's book series. I'm Amelia Earhart and I am Abraham Lincoln. Books designed to give my kids better heroes to look up to. And we've done I Am Rosa Parks and I'm Dr. King, and those are obvious picks. That's who we'd all pick if we have to pick someone. But as we got into the current time, we started looking around and saying, what do kids actually need? So we did We Are the Beatles to teach people to come together, stop fighting with each other. And these are illustrated kids' books for kids age 4 to 12 years old. But then I started realizing, again, my focus on mental health. How do we give kids heroes about mental health? And I realized that what I wanted to do was we did I Am Simone Biles, a book truly about mental health. And I love the fact that that's our first book about mental health. But the new one that's coming out and that will be out next week is we're doing our first book about empathy. And so we did I Am Princess Diana. And I love this book and can't wait for people to read I Am Princess Diana.
Now, with I Am Princess Diana, what was the collaboration like? Because I know you're usually very heavily involved with that.
Yeah, so Chris Eliopoulos is our amazing artist, and he always is just, eh, he and I work so closely on what we want the messaging to be. And what was so beautiful about this book is Diana was someone who, before her, there were, if you were in the royal family, you would go and have a charitable event on the weekend. You would wave to the crowd and wave to the kids. And when Diana came along, and suddenly she was hugging people, and all the staff was like, "What's she doing? They're hugging them, sir. Why is she doing that?" And she just wouldn't stop. And then she was hugging AIDS patients, which I know sounds like a nice thing to do now, but back then no one would even touch an AIDS patient. They were worried they were going to get AIDS. But didn't stop Diana. And same thing with lepers, all these groups that no one would touch. She would get in close and give them a hug. And I didn't know, and we all know who Princess Diana is, but I didn't know how cold her family life was. When she was a little girl, her family would just give her for Christmas a catalog and say, basically, pick out what you want, circle it. That was it. That's how you got your presents. Not because they knew what she liked. She just picked them out as, as like she was shopping for herself. And she could have gone the other way and been completely cold, but instead you found this woman because of her grandmother that showed empathy to people who needed it, especially those who had less than her. And boy, I want my daughter to hear that lesson. I want my sons to hear that lesson. I think right now, cruelty and venom and harshly judging those we disagree with, it's become sport in our culture. But cruelty and venom aren't signs of strength. They're signs of weakness and petty insecurity. And what takes strength is being kind to someone else and showing them empathy. If you really want to shock the world, unleash your kindness, unleash your empathy. And that's what I Am Princess Diana does, not just as a book, but as a person.
Well, I always buy your books and I save them up through the year and then give them away at the holidays. And I can't wait to buy I Am Princess Diana to add to this stack. Oh my goodness, Brad. I mean, you're such an inspiration. Where can people go to connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
You can, of course, go to bradmeltzer.com or find me on Instagram or Facebook or any other platform at Brad Meltzer, like seltzer that you drink, but with an M like Mary. And you can find the books in any bookstore, your local independent bookstore, Barnes and Noble. You can find them on Amazon and buy whole sets of them. But I love that I've gotten to come on your show and yes, talk to kids' books, but also talk to thrillers. And I know it sounds crazy that, on one page I'm murdering someone, on the other I'm trying to educate people's kids. But that's how we are sometimes, right? We act one way with our parents, another way with our friends. We're all chameleons, and we all have many sides. We all have a little bit of fighting us, and we all have a little bit of kindness and softness in us. And I think that's what you're seeing in these books is you're seeing the different sides of me. You're seeing me as a dad, and you're seeing me as someone who wants to be entertained myself. And I love the fact that no matter what we choose to create, you are always there with us.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Brad. It's always such an honor to spend time with you and to talk about your books, especially today, The Viper and I Am Princess Diana. Make sure to connect with Brad at his website, bradmeltzer.com, and there you have the adult section for all the thriller books that will keep you up at night, and the children's series that bring positive influences to their worlds today. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
informative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.